Welcome to episode 3 of my series called Traveling 101, your ultimate guide to every step of travel. Whether you're traveling for the very first time or if it's been a while and you need a refresher, I've got you covered. As I mentioned in episode 1 and 2, if you're an experienced traveler, you'll probably know a lot of this, but just in case, I've got timestamps down below, and I tried to include all my very best tips so there might be little nuggets of wisdom sprinkled throughout. Starting with checking in for your flight. 24 hours before departure, make sure you check in for your flight online. This is really important because when flights are oversold, those who haven't checked in are usually the first to get bumped if they don't have enough seats. Now that you've checked in for your flight, let's cover a few more essentials and apps to have on your phone before departure. If you're traveling to a foreign country, download Google Translate. But also make sure to download the local language in the app so that you can use it offline. This is a lifesaver in areas with no Wi-Fi or cell service. There are so many ways you can use it. If you don't know the language, for example, you can use the microphone feature to listen to overhead announcements. This is really useful when you're in the airport or on the train or metro. Or you can speak into the app and translate at hotels, restaurants, or anywhere else that you might need help communicating. And if I'm traveling internationally, I make sure to top up my eSIM. This saves me from costly roaming charges. For example, in Canada, roaming fees can be $15 to $20 per day when traveling abroad. Instead, what I do is download an eSIM app where you can choose a more affordable data plan. This ensures you have instant access to the internet as soon as you land without having to switch physical SIM cards. So I've left links below to the eSIMs that I use. I also recommend downloading offline maps, so you can download the Google map of the area you'll be traveling. This will help you navigate even without internet access in case you're in a no cell service zone. It's a good idea to have your hotel's name and address saved or written down somewhere. This may be required for immigration when entering a new country. And for your flight, if it's a long one, download movies or games to your phone or tablet if you're not sure if there's going to be in-flight entertainment. And if you'd like to read, add books to your e-reader. And download the airline's app as well. It's also a good idea to make copies of your passport or at least take a photo of it. Now, when should you arrive at the airport? If you have an international flight, plan to arrive at the airport 3 hours before departure. And for a domestic flight, 2 hours before departure. You can always show up earlier if you want, but if you're checking a bag, some airline check-in counters only open 4 hours before flights. So there's really no need to be there any earlier than that. Before you leave for the airport though, I recommend checking to make sure your flight isn't delayed. Sometimes airlines are delayed in sending out their notifications, so I usually double check on a website called flightaware.com. This is a free flight tracking website. All you do is type in your flight number and it tells you where your plane is. If you're flying with just carry-on bags and not checking any bags, and if you have your boarding pass that was issued to you when you checked in, you can usually go straight through to the security line without having to stop at the check-in desk. But if your boarding pass wasn't issued to you when you checked in for your flight, you will have to go check in at the airline counter or one of the airport kiosks. And if you're checking a bag, you will have to go to one of the airline counters or airport kiosks. If it's your first flight, I recommend going to the check-in counter and speaking with one of the agents. Otherwise, you can go to a kiosk and check yourself in and get your boarding pass. There's usually someone around from the airline that kind of hovers around these kiosks to provide help if you do need it. Now let's move on to everyone's favorite part, going through security. When you're entering the security line, be sure to have your boarding pass ready to go. You will usually have to scan this at 2 different points, so keep it accessible. Either the paper copy or the digital version is fine on your phone. If you're using the one on your phone, make sure the brightness is turned all the way up. There are different lines to enter, so look for the one that applies to you. There's usually a general security line and then some sort of TSA pre-check line or trusted traveler line. But even if you don't have pre-check of some sort, some airports allow you to book a time slot to enter the security line. This can be usually booked through the airport website directly, so about 24 to 48 hours before departure, check the website to see if you can book this. It's usually a small fee if there is one. For example, I just booked Fast Track at the Lisbon airport and it was €9. This is supposed to give you priority access to the security line. Now here are some tips to get through security smoothly. Sometimes you might have to take off your shoes, so I recommend shoes that you can remove pretty easily, and avoid going barefoot. Then place everything you have in the plastic bins to go through the X-ray machine. Depending on the airport, you might have to remove your liquids so that they're visible. I recommend keeping your clear liquids bag near the top of your carry-on so that you can easily take it out for screening. This is why I do recommend bags that open from the top instead of clamshell. You may also have to remove laptops or large electronics and big jackets or sweaters. You'll also have to make sure you empty all of your pockets. After you've placed your items in the bins, you'll be waved to walk through the body scanner. Don't be alarmed if they ask you to raise your arms or take a closer look. It's all part of the process. Sometimes they may need to quickly swab your hands too. If you do beep going through the scanner, they will ask you to double check if there's anything else to be removed from you, or they may use a handheld scanner to scan you again. Once you're done with the scanner, collect your belongings from the bin and step aside. Double check that you have everything, and then bring all of the items to a nearby bench or table to reorganize your bag. Don't do it where you grabbed your bin from. Sometimes your bag or belongings will get flagged, and the screening officers may need to open up your bag to inspect it. Again, this is normal and sometimes just happens, so just be patient. Now let's talk about what to do after security. First things first, look for your gate number. This will be on your boarding pass, but you should also check the departure boards around the airport for the most updated gate number. Sometimes the gate numbers can change, so the electronic departures board will have the most up-to-date gate numbers. And sometimes the gate can be a pretty far walk from where you're standing, so it is a good idea to familiarize yourself as soon as you get through security. And most importantly, boarding time is a lot earlier than departure time. This varies by airline and size of plane, but your flight will usually begin boarding around 45 minutes before departure, but it could be up to 1 hour. It should say this on your boarding pass though. Now, if you have some time before boarding, it's a good idea to grab yourself some water, maybe go eat something or buy some snacks. If you have more than an hour, you could visit a lounge. The price varies, and you might be able to get in for free with a credit card that you have, or you can purchase a pass. Otherwise, if you're hanging out at the gate, I like making sure my electronics are charged. I always travel with a power bank instead of using the charging stations at the airports, since there have been reports that scammers can use these to put malware on your phone. Now let's talk about boarding the flight. The boarding process may vary slightly depending on the airline, but here's a general overview. Boarding is typically done in groups. Your boarding group will be listed on your boarding pass, and the airline staff will call groups one by one to board. Once your group is called, proceed to the boarding gate where you will scan your boarding pass or hand it to the gate agent to scan. Then you head down the jetway to the plane. Now, depending on the airport, if there is no jetway at your gate, you might have to board a bus first, and that bus will drive you across the tarmac to your plane. When you get on the plane, there will be a flight attendant to greet you, and then proceed down the aisle to find your seat. Once you find your seat, stow your carry-on in the overhead bin above you, and place smaller items like purses or backpacks under the seat in front of you. Once you're seated, fasten your seatbelt and get comfortable. I recommend taking out any items you'll want during the flight, maybe like headphones or a book or snacks, and place those in the little pocket in the seat in front of you. Now that you're on the plane, here are some tips to stay comfortable during the flight. Staying hydrated is really important, so either bring a refillable water bottle with you or buy one in the airport, because the amount of water they give you on the plane is like a baby amount at a time. Noise-canceling headphones are also super important to have, either over the ear or earbuds, depending on how much room you have in your bag. For long flights, some sort of neck pillow. I'm trying out this new neck pillow eye mask combo on my next flight. I also like to bring my little pharmacy bag with me, so in here I'll put maybe some ibuprofen, some Tums, some body wipes, some Band-Aids, just little things that I might need during the flight. It's also a good idea to wear compression socks to be way more comfortable, and then even some slide-on or slip-on sandals to wear throughout the flight. I also usually bring my foot hammock as well. I've been using this for about 3 years, I think, and it really helps to keep your feet elevated. I have a few other videos where I share lots more flying tips, so those are linked below. That wraps up part 3 of my Traveling 101 series. In the next episode, I'll talk about what to do when you've arrived at your destination, including transportation tips and things to do as soon as you check into your hotel, and money tips. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.